Live, yes. Perfect. Alrighty. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Or one might say happy hump day. We've got 2 more days to go to the end of the week. So hopefully you guys are staying safe out there with this whole virus going around. Just to kind of introduce myself, my name is Farzad. I'm the Director of Marketing at Visme. Here I have my boss, Payman Taei, founder and CEO of Visme, and of course, John of Duct Tape Marketing. I'm sure all of you guys have heard of him and his work and podcast, his book, his all over the place. A huge, huge blessing to have him here to talk to us about user journey and how to basically create and master it. And today, throughout the webinar, we're going to have John to come on board and kind of talk about his experience. We're going to have a quick little showdown of Visme down the end towards the end to be basically showcase to you guys how you'll be able to visualize some of the concepts that John is going to be speaking about. In the meantime, though, if you guys have access to the commenting, I'm sure most of you guys are watching this on YouTube. Go ahead and put on the comments where you guys are located, where you're watching the webinar from. Alrighty, I see we got folks from the UK, Florida, Minnesota, Canada. There we go. We got a bunch of folks from all over the world. So great to have you guys here. Thank you for taking the time to come in. We have lots of cool stuff for you guys in the works, so definitely stick around till the end of the webinar. Alrighty, so I think we're ready to go ahead and get started. Without any further ado, I would like to hand the mic off to John, just so you guys, so for some of you guys who haven't heard of John yet, John is a marketing consultant, speaker, and author of Duct Tape Marketing. I'm a big fan of their podcast. If you guys want a golden marketing podcast, definitely go ahead and look them up on. You normally listen to an Apple podcast. I'm sure they're on other platforms as well, right, John?
You bet. Yep. Awesome. Pretty much anywhere you can listen. We're there.
Perfect. On Spotify and such. Great. Yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, also, John has multiple other books: Duct Tape Selling, The Commitment Engine, SEO for Growth, and also the Referral Engine, and the founder of the Duct Tape Marketing Consultant Network. He also has latest ebook, The Self-Reliant Entrepreneur, 366 Daily Meditations to Feed Your Soul and Grow Your Business, which I actually haven't read yet. It's still on my to-read list. It's a daily reminder to entrepreneurs that a better you makes a better business. All right, John, great to have you here. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thanks so much. And looks like you've got lots of folks joining us, so it should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. All right, John, we're all ears. Feel free to take over, and we're happy to hear what you got in the works for us.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen real fast and pull up some slides that you can follow along with. So we've called this presentation Guiding the Customer Journey. Customer might be client, might be patient, might be user, but essentially whoever you're after as kind of your ideal customer or client, we want to talk about the need to help kind of guide them along the process. Now, I could call this how to get 100% of your clients to refer you as well, because ultimately that's what a great customer journey is all about, is about turning those prospects into clients, into raving fans, because one of the greatest sources of lead generation is a happy customer. And that's really what this is all about. But before we get into my process that I've developed and been using for about 15 years now, I want to go on a little journey of how marketing has changed over that period of time, just by sharing a couple stats, because we're all dealing with this now. 61% of mobile searches are more likely to contact a local business if they have a mobile-friendly website. So what does that say? We certainly have to be considering the mobile experience of folks online. 87% of potential customers won't consider a business with low ratings. Doesn't matter what industry you're in.
Sorry to interrupt here. So we can't actually see your screen. If you'd be kind to reshare your screen so we can see the slides as you're going through them. Sorry about the interruption.
Oh, no, that's all right. That's quite all right. I must have pressed the wrong button somewhere.
No worries. Take your time.
Let me get back there. That's probably going to be better, isn't it?
Yes, perfect. Awesome.
All right. Well, I'll do the fast version of those first couple of slides. But again, here's our topic: guiding the customer journey. But as I said, I think I could equally call this how to get 100% of your clients to refer you, because that's really what this idea of a great customer journey is all about. Is the process of getting somebody who's a prospect becomes a client, becomes a raving fan, turns into somebody who wants to talk about and share your business. Now, clients could be customers, they could be patients, users, whatever you call them. The goal here is to have happy customers. Happy customers become your greatest source of lead generation. But I want to talk a little bit about, and I'll share some stats on, how marketing has changed over the last, decade or so, because it is a lot of, dictating a lot of how we go about marketing. I mean, we have all these new channels, all these new things online. So, some stats: 61% of mobile searchers are more likely to contact a local business if they have a mobile-friendly website. So obviously, we have to pay attention to the mobile experience online. 87% of customers won't consider businesses with low ratings. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. Everybody is rating and reviewing businesses and experiences today. And that's a part that's out of our control in some ways. 64% of consumers say watching a marketing video on Facebook has influenced a purchase decision in the last month. There it is. We got to be on these social channels. We got to be producing video, another set of tactics and things we have to do. 92% of consumers visit a brand's website for the first time for reasons other than making a purchase. I would say that 92% of the small business websites that I visit, are set up exclusively for that person who came there to make a purchase. So we have to consider this idea of journey, when it comes to our online presence in every aspect. But here's the hard part, I think, for a lot of folks. 82% of small business owners, doesn't matter what they sell, claim that their main source of new business is referrals. Now, how are referrals given has certainly changed dramatically. In many cases, a referral is a testimonial. A referral is a review on a website. A referral is a share in Facebook. A review might be still a conversation across a neighbor's fence. But we have to understand that the greatest thing that has changed, the biggest thing that has changed in marketing is how people buy. Yes, there are all these other avenues, all these other tactics, all these other channels we have to consider. But the first thing we have to consider is how has the person, how are people making decisions about the companies they find, choose, stick with? That's what's changed the most, because a lot of the control, if you will, in the buying process has really moved to the customer or the user, because they have access to so much information about companies, about our companies, about products, about services, about ways to solve their problems. So this kind of standard model of the marketing funnel of just, drive a bunch of leads into the top of the funnel and, find ways to kind of squeeze a number of them out to become customers. This model is really broken. In fact, I would suggest that the customer journey looks a lot more like this. It is not a linear path. And many of the ways in which customers come into contact with us and make decisions about buying from us are actually out of our control. Now, we can try to influence them, but the fact that somebody can set up a YouTube channel exclusively talking about our business, good, bad, or ugly, means that some of the ways in which people get information about our business are out of our control. And so I created about 15 years ago something I call the marketing hourglass to replace the concept of the funnel. Now, it borrows, if you think about the traditional shape of an hourglass, it borrows heavily from the funnel idea. We still have to get people to know about our business and hopefully educate them to the point that they're going to want to buy from us. But it's what happens after that so many people neglect. And that's really where I think some of the greatest opportunity to create a great experience, to create repeat business, to create those raving fans who want to refer us comes. So when I talk about marketing, it's less about creating demand and more about organizing behavior. And these 7 stages are behaviors that I believe that pretty much everybody, yourself included, wants to go through with businesses that they do business with. So know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. So if you think about that, we obviously need to come to know companies that can solve our problems. When we get there, we want to think, oh yeah, I like what they're saying. I like what they're doing. Do other people trust them? Do other people buy from them? because in many cases, that's the part that's actually going to decide whether or not they're going to move forward. Do I trust that this company can solve my problems? Certainly, I don't know about you, but I love it when I can try what it's going to be like to work with a company, try out a tool, try out a software. And certainly when I buy, I want the whole buying sign-up experience, the follow-up experience. I want that to stay as high as possible, because then, frankly, if they solve my need and the experience is great, I'm not even going to look around. I'm not going to shop for price. I'm not going to move to somebody else because I'm going to continue to do business with them because they solve my problem, because I like doing business with them. And ultimately, that's going to turn into, because I think we as human beings are wired to talk about great experiences, to talk about companies and tools and products that exceed our experience or our expectations, that we're going to naturally refer or share or talk about those companies. And so those are the 7 behaviors that we need to intentionally think about as we build out all of our marketing, all of our campaigns, in many cases, our processes for how we interact with customers and prospects. So here's the basic concept. How do we apply the marketing hourglass? So the first question, and this is, so many people get this backwards. They start thinking, okay, what can we do to get them to like us? What can we do to get them to trust us? And those are ultimately what you have to decide. But the first thing you have to decide is, how do your customers or your prospects actually buy? I mean, how do they solve their problems? So often I will talk to small business owners that will tell me that the only way that their customers buy is somebody refers them. You think about these, a CPA or an attorney. I mean, you're probably not going to turn to a Facebook ad and think, oh, good, I'm going to hire that attorney to write my contracts for me. You're probably going to talk to another business owner who has worked with that or has a similar type of business, and they're going to maybe tell you about the great experience they had with their attorney. So a lot of times companies will just look at it and say, oh, we need to be here, we need to be there, we need to be there. How customers actually buy. And it's not simply a matter of, I found this company, I bought from them. What are the questions and objectives they have as they move closer to buying products and services? So often folks that I work with will, I talked about those stages: know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, refer. Most people want to put know and buy. Go from like, you found me, you read my ad, you saw this, I had a meeting with you, now buy from me. And there is a process of helping them move, or guiding them at least, from the understanding of what their problem is to the understanding that you have the solution to solve that problem. It's a process. And those questions and objectives they have in each of those stages change. And so we have to then understand them first, and then match our marketing channels and tactics to guide them. And in most cases, we have to figure out what's the role of content and story and design in each of those channels. So this is actually for my business. And so I just wanted to illustrate this in a way that brings it into context of, how you might actually be thinking about these 7 stages of know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. So obviously in many cases, traffic sources, that's how people come to know us, direct mail, Facebook, partners, networking. I mean, those are all the generic ways that a lot of times people come to know about us. But today, content is the starting point, or at least our website, might be the starting point where they will decide, yeah, this is somebody that's talking, my language. They seem to understand my problem. They're going to give us an email address because they trust us, or because we've offered something like a checklist that addresses, their specific problem or need. There's going to be some amount of trying us in the nurture and the follow-up campaign that might come from giving that email address. But I will tell you, a phone call is a try, a meeting is a try, a webinar is a try. I mean, there are lots of ways in which people can at least get a sense of what it might be like to work with us. Then there might be some sort of discovery process where you can find out their needs, you can find out their problems, you can start talking about ways you could specifically address their problem. And then the buying process, what's a proposal look like? What's a follow-up look like? What's the new customer kit and the orientation and the onboarding processes look like? So you can see that We're starting to walk outside of the realm of what a lot of people think of when they think of traditional marketing, into the customer experience or the customer service. But that's really where that next purchase comes from. That's what turns them into a repeat client. And that's what ultimately then turns them, if we create processes, that's what ultimately turns them into that referral client as well. So if you think about the Hourglass, it's just a matter of, create these boxes: know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, refer, and think about, how do they buy? Okay, what do we need? If that's how they buy, if that's how they find their information, what do we need to do? Where do we need to be in order to address that? So I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and I won't belabor this. I just wanted you to get a sense of it. This is actually an actual client that sells accounting software to nonprofit agencies. So the top half of that is, well, people find them because they go to search engines. That's typically most of us these days, or they read journals. In this case, they attend conferences. Their ideal client does. They network with each other. They have boards of directors that make recommendations. They'll respond to an ad. So we identified those are all the ways that people come to know about this company or know about this accounting software. So what does that mean for us? That's the bottom half. So this is just the exercise that we go through. So we say, okay, if that's the case in the top half, well, then we better be focused on search engine optimization. We better be thinking about producing educational content. We might want to find some of those journals and think about how could we contribute content. We're not doing anything actively as a referral process. If folks network and take recommendations, what are we doing to make sure that they're talking about us? Are there conferences that we need to be in? So you can see that this becomes an exercise that frankly, you can get your team together in a room one day and kind of knock out many of these answers. So, once they come back, once they found us, they're going to check out our website. Maybe they're going to visit on a mobile. Maybe they're going to bookmark. They're going to look for content to download. They might actually look at our Facebook profile or our LinkedIn profile and start kind of thinking about, okay, this is somebody that might go on my short list of companies that I consider. So if that's the case, we better knock them down with a website promise when we get there. They better find useful content. We better have social media activity. Like it or not, our site better load fast. We better have great calls to action that really entice them to look for information over and above just, hey, sign up for my newsletter. So, having something on our website above the fold that just really hits them, where they are. This is a basement waterproofing company. Instead of talking about we do basements, we found out that their number one reason people want to fix their basement is because they're trying to sell their house. So we focused on solving that problem. Trust becomes the next factor. They're going to revisit a website. They're going to look at reviews. They're going to ask friends. They're going to do a deep Google search. So if that's the case, what do we need to do? We need to have case studies. We need to have trust signals. We need to have videos of our people. So you can see how we're moving people along because at first they're just trying to find somebody, but now they're starting to think, is this the somebody? Is this somebody I want to go deeper with? So having videos of this was a designer for a remodeling company talking about her approach to design, having trust signals. They might make a call. They might attend a webinar. They'll visit a conference booth. I mean, again, this is this accounting software. So how are we addressing this? And this will differ for every one of you on this call, but we have to think about what are we doing to intentionally allow people to move through these stages. Buying process. Okay, they requested a proposal. They want to negotiate a purchase. Now, what are we doing? What's our proposal process actually look like? Are all the salespeople using that process? How do we communicate our expectation or their expectations, what they should expect from us? What's our onboarding process? If in this case, they're transitioning to a new software, what's their new customer kit look like? These are all tactics or projects in many cases that fall from this exercise of going through this. I will tell you just briefly the benefits of paid lead conversion are something that we really try to put to everybody. If there's a way for somebody to try you in a paid model that is then going to go up to maybe a much higher cost engagement, there's just so much benefit to that because there's a lot of people offering free today, and there's a lot of people taking advantage of free. If you can crack the nut on how to get somebody to give you a little money to move to the next stage, that is a great buying process. The repeat process is, again, hopefully you're getting the point here, is that we step through all of these exercises exercises so that we can then almost design our entire working plan for how we're going to where we have gaps. That's the main thing that we end up identifying, is a lot of companies will go through this process and then figure out where they are actually missing aspects to help move people along the process. I will tell you on referrals, and I've been singing this song for so long because I wrote a book on referrals called The Referral Engine. That actually being seen as somebody who teaches referrals is a great process. If you are a business who sells to other businesses, one of the greatest ways to generate more referrals is to bring many of your customers together. I don't care what you sell, teach them how to get more business by way of referral, because it's the number one way that most small businesses at least get the bulk of their clients. And so if you can be seen as somebody to help them amplify that, no matter what you sell, it will generate referrals for you. So after we go through this process, this is kind of where we end up. We end up with a chart that in many ways gives us kind of a working plan for everything that needs to be fixed, upgraded, changed. Now, there's a lot of steps and, to all the projects that fall from this, but this is a great way to look as a framework for your entire business, or certainly for your marketing and your sales and your service components of your business. So there's the marketing hourglass, guiding the customer journey in 7 stages. Know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. And I'll give you one little tip in closing here. A lot of times when we do this with folks, we'll actually do it in reverse. And the reason for that is because a lot of times, you start with, okay, how can companies come to know about you? Everybody can answer that because they're already doing it to some extent. Now, they may be missing some components, but they're kind of already doing that. I mean, that's how people think about marketing. Well, we run advertising, we do this. But what if you instead said, okay, what would it take so that every single one of our clients was so happy with us that they were willing to refer us? Or what would we have to do? What would we want customers thinking, feeling, doing 45 days, 90 days after they buy from us? Because if you start there, you're more likely to build functionality and processes and campaigns into creating a better customer experience than how do we get more clicks. So you'll ultimately get to that point where how do we get more clicks or how do we get more signups? But if you start with, after we get a customer, what do we do to just blow them away? That will improve your business more than any aspect of some platform or some email writing course or some SEO in the end. So that's really it for what I wanted to share today, and I'll kind of stop my screen sharing, and we can go to the next part of the presentation, including questions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, John, for the amazing presentation. I myself have a ton of questions, so really excited for the Q&A part that comes in a few minutes. So thank you again for taking the time. I know you're extremely busy, so we really appreciate you taking the time to be here. In the meantime, I want to hand the mic off to my boss, Payman, who has been actually on the Duct Tape Marketing podcast. John had interviewed Payman. So Payman, are you with us? You're on mute for a sec.
Yes, I am here. I should be in any second, right?
Alrighty, perfect, awesome. Well, Payman, guys. So John has basically mentioned lots of great info about how to create and be able to guide your customers through the customer journey and optimize it as much as possible. Now, there are a lot of it that has to be, a lot of the steps in the process requires you to actually be able to communicate with your customers. And the best way you can communicate with them using visuals and actually being able to, say, pictures worth 1,000 words. A lot of the time, especially when, from the very top of the funnel, when you start from the content and all the way down to your referral program and your champion users, there's a lot of steps in the process that requires you to be able to create these pieces of content. Now, most people, if they're like anyone like me who has absolutely no artistic skills or design background, going to have a little hard time being able to craft those. And so basically, Payman, he's going to be taking over and kind of showing you guys how to be able to kind of create these pieces of content, create these touch points with your customers in a quick and easy way, in a visual format. So Payman, we're all ears, man. If you would like to take over screen sharing and take us through the top.
Alrighty, is my screen showing?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks everybody for joining. Great presentation as always from John. I always learn something new myself when I'm listening to one of these webinars, and this one, of course, is no different. If you're seeing my screen, so what I'm going to show you in a nutshell, people always ask, what is Visme? We are the all-in-one communication tool. So people basically use this tool to create all types of content. And today I'm going to focus on customer journey. And I'm going to actually I saw the marketing hourglass slide that was presented by John a little bit earlier. So I'm going to just kind of show you how another angle that you could take that content and present a little bit differently. So real quickly, to give you a little bit of a snippet, a tool such as Visme, you can use any other tool that you like. Hopefully you try Visme. It is free. Everybody can use it to create different types of content. We're known as more of a presentation tool, but we're actually a data visualization, a charting tool, a reporting tool. So I'm going to focus on one thing, and then you can, of course, explore the rest yourself. I'm in my own dashboard. This is my team plan, and I can share different content and projects with my team at any given time. And then you can, of course, import a PowerPoint into Visme. Why would you do that? Because you get to spice it up. You could get to add all sorts of things to it. But I'm going to skip over and click on the create. And then when you create something in Visme, you get to choose the type of content that you want to create. So yes, you can create from the ground up, but or presentations, we give you full-blown presentations. I'm going to go a little bit more towards the infographic. I want to do a journey. So you can think of it as, what does a journey look like? And we give you these different types of content. So perhaps it is more of a timeline, or it's more like a process. And then none of these really say customer journey. You don't have to worry about that. You just find the one that kind of has a closer look to the structure that you're looking for. Now, it just happens that if I type in the word journey here, we have animated, but I'm going to go to the infographics, and then using the customer journey map, that's the one I selected a few minutes ago, and I've got it open here. And as John was speaking and presenting, I ended up just grabbing a few of the words, and I'm going to actually just skip over here to this slide that was here, the content, right? So we're talking about this particular slide here, I think. I don't have it in front of me, but anyway. So there was a couple slides that were talking about the 7 steps, and one of them was try. The other one's going through the order. The knowing, the like, the try, the trust, and the buy. So if you look here, what I've done is simply just adjusted these words and then modified it. And I just went ahead on the try one and then adjusted it to make a call, attend a webinar, visit a conference booth, and so on. Now, you could just go it that way. And then, in this case, we're talking about 7 steps. So I can go ahead and remove the steps that I don't need. So in this case, we're talking about 7. So I could get rid of those, okay? I just want to show you that you have the ability to customize things. And what I want to do is I just want to focus on the 7 steps. So, and the 7th one, of course, was refer. So I'm going to go ahead and change this. Again, I'm going to skip over a lot of stuff. So imagine that you give a little description for each of these. And if I'm done with it, I've got myself a little infographic, right? And I can go in and do that. I can go full screen. I can stretch things and fill it up with more content here. But what I want to do is I want to end up customizing things a little bit more. So let's go ahead and put this here. Now, in Visme, you have ability to do a couple different things. Because I'm in an infographic, and you see this is the height, I can zoom out, and I can add additional components, because I want to show you interactivity. Because you can, in Visme, do all sorts of interactivity components. I'm only going to touch on a couple of those. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab me a little block of content. So we give you all these different templates, you see? And I can go ahead and grab one of these. So let's say that I wanted one of them, one of those blocks, to go to an actual box or a selection that I want to do. And then I can choose that and add that as a block, okay? So or I can do an empty block here as well. Now, if I did an empty block, I can even go to the left side and say, hey, I need certain components, and maybe I'll go ahead and grab this. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and adjust and customize things. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go add content and so on. But what I want to do is I want to show you how you can, for more information, I want to do a couple things. When I click on this, I want to actually show the next step of the try, learn how to buy. And all I did, I'm going to zoom here, was to add a little text and give a little color. It's like a text editor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and actually group this object, okay? And in Visme, I can give an action to every single object. So what I want this one to do is open a little pop-up. And I need to bring something in. So I'm going to go to my files. I've already uploaded this. I uploaded a photo here a little bit earlier on. And it's basically this photo that was from the presentation that a little bit earlier on that John was doing. So I'm going to just go ahead and position it here. And what I want to do is when somebody was to click on this, I want to show this object. So here, no coding needed. I click on this, and then I click on pop-up. And then I'm just going to go to the very, very bottom. This is the last object I added, so it's at the bottom here, and I'm going to apply it, okay? Let me just move this out of the way for a moment. And what I want to do is when somebody clicks on this one, I'm going to go ahead and it's grouped already. I'm going to apply a link to it, and I want to take them to the Duct Tape Marketing site. So let me go to the website. And again, I just want to show you how you could do this yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the Duct Tape Marketing website here, okay? And I'm going to, in this one, go ahead and put the URL. And if somebody clicks on it, I want to open a new window because I want them to not actually leave Visme, okay? And last but not least, what I'm going to do is for this refer one, I'm going to go ahead and apply an action to that too, okay? So what I want to do on this one is when somebody was to click on it, I want to take them to the next block, which is the one down. I could have as many blocks as I want. So I'm going to go ahead and, again, I added a new block. So I know it's called block 1. And I want to go ahead and add and take them there. So I'm going to show you how this looks in just a moment. Let me go ahead and position this. And here, I want to show you some interactivity. In Visme, content does not have to be boring. I want you to make things exciting in Visme or any other tool you use, but it happens that we give you all sorts of cool stuff. So nobody says that content that you create to give messages has to be boring. So let's make it a little exciting. I'm going to go ahead and give this guy a little pose, and I want him to be announcing this particular message or question and so on there, okay? And I'm going to have him repeat a little bit. And then what I also want to do is last thing is to go here, and I want to add a little block, and I want to move it to the top. And what I want to do is bring in a little animated illustration with my title and so on. So watch this. I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, in this case, we're talking about marketing. It's a little bit business related. Actually, let's say it's more social media. Let's grab ourselves one of these assets. I love the isometric style. So I want to go ahead. This could be something cool for marketing related, and I'm going to stick it here, okay? Now, again, I could get creative for the sake of time. I don't have a lot of time to go and, move things around, but I could go grab these and I could move them, center and put this above the object. But again, I think you get the point of it. So what I've got myself here is a little infographic with a little item here that's added. So let's go ahead and see what it looks like. So if I want to share this online, I can also download it. I'm going to go ahead and say customer journey and webinar. Okay, now I could make it as a URL that's public. I'm going to actually share this with you guys in a second, or I could make it private and share it only with the specific people. But I'm going to go ahead and launch it as a URL. So what I'm going to now do is I'm going to give the infographic. By the way, I can go full page. Look at it. It's already animated. And as I scroll down, and I'm going to full screen for you. Look at this. I'm going to go full screen. It's almost like a web page, you see? I've come down here. And remember, I give an action to this one. There it is. So basically, hey, learn how to try this. And there's a question for it, okay? And what I'm going to do on this one is I give it an action to open on a new website and go to a URL. So that would take me to the Duct Tape Marketing website, okay? And then also what I did was I have another section of this that I had. So let's go ahead full screen, go down here. And then on refer, I give it an action and say, hey, when I click on this, go to the next slide, okay? So that's how you can make very interactive, engaging content in Visme. This could be a link. You can go ahead and embed this to your own website if you want to with an embed code. Or if you're like, hey, I really need this to be offline because I'm just very old school, you can go and download it. Because there's some animation involved in this one, I probably wouldn't download as an image. You can. I could get as a PDF or a video file. Now, video files, of course, you want to be respectful for infographics. They're not really video format, right? They're too tall. So you probably want to get it as a GIF and make it a little smaller. Or you can even download it as a fully HTML5 content. So you can actually download it and put it right on your website or present offline. All right, so I could keep going, but I'm going to cut it short here. That just gives you a little bit of an idea that you can be a powerful content presenter yourself and use visual pieces such as animations and icons and graphics and text to make content that could otherwise be, static and stagnant and make it more interactive and more engaging with your audience.
All right.
Hey,
well, thank you so much.
Hey,
Payman.
Payman, can you send me the
Yes,
link to that?
Oh, yes. I can. Yeah. Let me get that. I didn't quite finish it for you, but
No.
I'm actually gonna
finish it up and then send it to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll get one of the designers to even finish it up for you because to make it even prettier than I can. But what I'm going to do is, let's say we got live comments here. I don't know if I could do that. Could I put a live comment here or no? Here, I'm going to put this message here, the link, and you can actually share with everybody that's there right now. Because if you don't mind, I made it as a public URL because it's not confidential information, I'm assuming, and I'll only put one of your snippets there. But
That's great.
there's the link, and if you can grab it from the private chat and stick it, everybody else can also go to the link as well.
One of the things that people underestimate, I talked a lot about building trust, and I think if you can simplify complex concepts, I think that actually goes a long way towards building trust. And I think visuals certainly, that's one of the real impactful things about visuals is a lot of times they can help you simplify something that's really complex. Really, I was half kidding, but I mean, I need that tool to help explain the Hourglass even better. So thanks.
You're welcome.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much, Payman, for the presentation. And John, glad to have you back. I know you got disconnected for a second there.
Yeah, that's cool.
Alrighty. Awesome. Great. So we got a ton of questions. So I'm really excited to kind of bounce up some questions from you guys because I'm sure a lot of folks are excited to have you guys. So I'm going to start off with a couple of questions about your presentation, John, and then there's a couple of questions also here about Visme, Payman. So Samantha is asking, what tools or research methods do you recommend us to use to find out how people search for a particular product or service? And not necessarily SEO-wise, but also about the broader customer research.
Yeah, so there's a couple tools that we use. Semrush has a tremendous content, discovery, keyword discovery tool that you can actually find the terms people are putting in and into kind of volume. So that's one way. Old school, Payman mentioned, interview your customers. Get them on the phone and ask them, how they found you, how they make decisions, how they find other services. There you can get a tremendous amount of insight from that process as well.
Oh, I see. Thank you, John. I'm not sure actually whether you've heard of the new tool Rand Fishkin, the founder of Moz, has released called Spark Toro.
Yeah,
that's it's still in beta. I think still in their very early stages of their product, but definitely check them out. I think that definitely a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great. So we also got a question from Vanessa, who's asking, do you recommend any resources on the best way to design a B2B website designed for the purpose of demand generation or revenue, not just an electric brochure of content delivery?
Well, I think Payman might have some thoughts on this as well from a design standpoint. But I will say a lot of the elements that I talk about in the journey need to show up on the website as well. So somebody needs to get there, and they need to actually have a promise that you first promise to solve the problem that their greatest problem is. Instead of like, here's what we do, it's here's what we fix, in your world. They need to understand, have representation of your personas or avatars or whatever. I mean, here's who we serve. Here's who gets results, using our product or service. Having all the trust elements you can there as far as testimonials or case studies or logos or certifications, whatever your business is about, having that, content or those things, as people kind of step through, having calls to action for something that sounds really useful, again, related to solving that problem. There's, you think about kind of that journey, there has to be a little bit, okay, I came to know you. You do seem to know about my problem. Oh, I kind of like the way you're talking about things. Oh, other people trust you. Is there a way to try you, like, by downloading some great useful piece of content? So that's when we build wireframes, for websites, that's kind of what we're thinking about, especially on the homepage is how does this site, allow somebody to kind of go through a journey. And that's why you see these long scrolling homepages are such, the popular way to design homepages today, is because that's kind of the expectation or the behavior. People want to kind of go through and make a decision about, like, okay, yeah, check that box. Okay, I like that. Check that box. So that's, in a nutshell, that's how we design B2B sites.
Gotcha. Payman, do you have anything to add on to that?
As far as website creation tools, was that it? Because I do want to apologize because all I was doing right now was, I wanted to make sure we give the credit to John. So if anybody got the link, they can refresh that page, and that's the beauty of it. I don't have to send you an updated link. I already adjusted in last 2 minutes. Drop your logo on there, and then there it is. I put the title up there and add another character here for you as well. So anyway, I had to do that, right?
I was way too fascinated by Visme, but
yeah, I had to do that. But no, I mean, as far as if we're talking about the website creation tools, if it's a do-it-yourself platform, Wix, Squarespace, of course, is kind of like the Apple of it in terms of the sexiness and the cleanliness of the tool and so on. So it's a do-it-yourself e-commerce. Shopify would be another aspect. And then, of course, you're hiring someone or you want to go a little bit deeper into a little bit more strength. WordPress, of course, 25-30% of the websites are powered by that. But eventually, you're going to find yourself, you're going to need to probably have a developer. Our own website is based on WordPress, by the way, heavily customized. So it's not so much the platform you use. There's a lot of great tools out there, but I think people are often forgetting that, hey, what website did you create your site with? If you use Squarespace versus use Wix, which ones give you better SEO? There's a little bit more beyond that than just the tool that you're using. There's also the foundation and principles of things, and that's, I think, what John is focusing on here.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, thank you, John. Actually, one thing to mention about the whole customer journey of trying, and you mentioned that it's always best if you can get customers to pay a little less and get them in on a paid basis. We experienced this firsthand, and I think Payman can speak to that also. About a couple months ago, actually, we just released a new product. It's called Respona. I'm not sure whether you've heard of it, actually, but so exactly that was what we went through. It's an outreach platform, just in case folks don't know, for finding podcasts like John's podcast to pitch themselves to go on as a guest, finding blog opportunities and news articles to be able to get in front of some bloggers or journalists, spread the word about a business. But what we were doing at the time was basically a 14-day free trial where we, it was kind of an industry standard of getting people in at very low commitment and then basically trying. And what happened was that people weren't using the tool at all, even though, we were just giving it to them for free. People would just often just log in for the first time, like, oh, this is interesting, and they just put it in the back burner. And what we started doing that actually worked freakishly well was actually changed our model into a money back guarantee system. That when we get on a call with a customer and we get them in on a tool, we're like, hey, we don't want to have any risk, but just to kind of get you psychologically invested in the tool, we're going to have you pay for the first month. But if you didn't like it after 30 days or so, and then we give your money back, no questions asked. So it was very interesting when you mentioned, because that's exactly what happened to us. So wish we had talked to you a few months sooner. Lost on a few opportunities. Perfect. John Adams asking, do you have any suggestions with determining the right price for a service throughout the customer journey to not scare them away, especially for a new business?
Yeah, price is funny. I mean, price is just a function of value. People will pay $1 million for something that they believe is worth $1 million. And that, that's the hard part, I think, for a lot of people is, there are $1 million problems that people want solved. And everything from I want my neighbors to think I'm, a really impressive person to, I have a, legitimate like medical problem or something I want to solve. So, the real key is, or where people end up discounting things or feeling like, oh, I can't charge that much because nobody else is. It's because they haven't really unlocked somebody's problem that they're trying to get solved, and they haven't unlocked a way to communicate, why this is the path, to solve that. So that was a really, that was very, very much a consultant answer of, it depends. But to me, what I like to do in early on, if I'm creating a product or a service, is I like to, hopefully have a group of people that I think I'm going to target participate and not just give me feedback, but literally build it with them. Give me advice on how I could make this more valuable to you. And what happens then is you start hearing, well, I needed to do this, or I needed to do that, or here's what I'm always struggling with, or here's what I don't get about what you're trying to, to sell me. And typically you create a much better product product or service that way. Now I know, particularly you guys in the software business, I'm sure you have lists of features that people want, that is, 2 miles long. So I'm not necessarily talking about that. And you've probably, you have to balance that with, okay, this one person wants this one feature, but is that, does that make sense for us to build it in, because nobody else will use it. So, but I will say this whole customer discovery process is how you nail the differentiation. It's how you nail the messaging, and that's how you then are able to kind of not only lock down on pricing but charge more. And that's where I think is the real key. A lot of times people will do research on pricing and they'll just say, well, what's everybody else charging? And it's like, well, that's what we have to charge. That's what you have to charge because you haven't differentiated what you do. You haven't found a group of people who want a bigger problem solved than what you're trying to solve.
Absolutely. And yeah, often that's kind of what I've noticed also, is that lots of folks just kind of focus on the market price of things versus actually trying to gauge how much people are willing to pay for it. So do you offer any sort of ways we could experiment with it? Is there any way? I mean, obviously some products are easier to experiment with than another. But let's say if I'm a business owner, and because normally, people just catch a number off the air or they take an educated guess. But how could they optimize this later on down the line, saying, okay, how can I know whether I can charge more? I have to charge less to get more people in the door.
Yeah, sometimes, particularly if you're trying to do this at scale, it is a guess. I mean, and the market will tell you a little bit of like, I don't get it. It doesn't seem worth that, to me. But what I always tell people to do is you've got to constantly be testing that, because if you have 1,000 people that will pay you $19 a month, there's probably 200 of those people who will pay you $99 a month. And so once you get that $19 a month client in, you need to start really working with them. How could we make this more valuable to you? Now, you may not actually you may not end up going to them and saying, okay, now it's $99 a month. But they can teach you how to make it worth $99 a month from a communication standpoint, because they're using it. That's probably one of the things you guys have found out. The more you can get somebody to use it, the more valuable it becomes to them. And so that's how we like to do the research, is that, sometimes you got to come out of the gate with what you can get, but it's shame on you if you feel like that's all you can get.
I see. And we got Hans asking a question. I think the shortened version of that would be if you can explain the repeat concept more. So how would you get your customers to keep basically buying from you or upsell them?
Yeah, it's funny. I did halfway answer Hans' question in kind of my last response, not knowing it. But that concept of 20% of your happy customers will buy a lot more than what they're buying from you today, and 20% of them will buy a lot more. So think about it as kind of a ladder. You should be thinking about, it's a traditional thing. What's the free thing that gets them to know us, or what's the really low cost thing then that gets them to be part of our audience, our community. Okay, what's the raving fan offering? And then what's like the crazy offering? I mean, if you sell, like in my business, I'm a marketing consultant. If I sell a $199 course, I can sell some percentage of those people a $1,500 a month coaching program, and I can sell some percentage of those people a $15,000 mastermind retreat. And so the key from a repeat standpoint is to continue to make your product better, continue to look at your top 20% of your clients and figure out how you could continue to blow them away, because that math works in almost every business that I've worked with.
I see. Thank you very much, John. And I guess we've got one last question here. And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name here. Stringer is asking, Stringer Society Lacrosse, I'm assuming it's a company, is asking any recommendations on building the structure of your site, including like blog posts, product pages, landing pages, around the customer journey with SEO best practices in mind. So how would you recommend structuring the site, taking into account?
Yeah. So the way we've been doing it, and again, that's a really broad question. Obviously, I would have different answers for a local business than a national business. I would have different answers for a professional service versus, say a home service, versus a software company. I mean, obviously there'll be differences. But I tell you what we have been doing with most of our clients is that, I talked about kind of the homepage journey, having that promise nailed, having the personas, of who we serve. If you sell, 3 or 4 different products or services that are dramatically different, having those represented on the homepage, and then having interior pages, for all of those. So it might be, it might be still the, typical nav of, about us, our products and services, who we serve. But what we've also found a tremendous amount of luck with, or results with, I should say, is to actually identify the 2 or 3 biggest things that you offer. So I think I showed an example of a waterproofing company, a basement waterproofing company, and they offer basement waterproofing and they offer foundation repair. I mean, those are the 2 big things that they offer. So what we've been creating are called hub pages. So instead of thinking about a blog as just like this, twice a week we put something into the ether, and if you go find it, good luck, because we've been blogging for 10 years, and now we have hundreds of articles. Good luck. And maybe some of them are showing up in SEO. But what we'll do is we'll take all that collection of stuff and say, okay, let's create the ultimate guide to foundation repair. If you're a local business in your city, that would be what we would create. And what that would end up being is a structure of blog posts. So it'd almost be like a course or like a table of contents. So that guide page would actually link out to all of the content we've written. It'd be grouped in subcategories or sub-content, but it would link out to all the content we've produced over the years that have anything to do with, that topic. And then all of those blog posts would link up to this guide page. What we found is that has been the most effective way for us to have our client sites rank, especially local sites, rank immediately in page 1 and page 2 for the kind of content that their clients are looking for, their prospects, I should say, are looking for early on in the journey. And that's the key. If somebody's basement is flooding, they're gonna click on Google and they're gonna click on an ad and they're gonna say, come fix my basement. But if they're starting the process of researching, should I do this? What should I be looking for? What might this cost me? Which is kind of the typical journey early on, right? Those hub pages that are focused on teaching, all about them solving those problems, have become, to me, top nav for navigation, components, as well as the number one way in which we're having sites rank.
I see. Gotcha. Thank you so much, John. And I guess we got one more question here, and we are kind of running out of time here, so let's put that as the last question. Murali, and again, I'm sorry, I'm terrible at pronouncing names, is asking, could you tell us what are some of the top 3 things that people often mistake when it comes to designing and also running people through their customer journey? What are some of the pitfalls people that you see normally people do?
Okay, so am I addressing the question that's up here? What are the top things we should not do when
we're opening a new customer? I'm sorry, I'm looking at another one. Okay. Let's go ahead.
So answer on. Well, first off, I'm not sure I'd refer to it as roping in a new customer. That sounds painful, but I get the concept that you want me to answer. As far as not do, the big mistake I see people do is if they sell a product or service, they basically say anybody who needs accounting, anybody who needs software, anybody who needs a bookkeeper, can buy our product or service. So don't put yourself out there as a commodity. That's number one. So, I have a great example. I mean, talking to a client, a CPA firm recently, in the discussion, they said, our best clients are clients that have multi-state clients. So we've got they've got all the sales tax issues and delivery issues and reporting issues to all these different states. And it's like, okay, let's say that, let's tell the world that that's who we work with. Because that, narrowing your focus is how you're really going to end up figuring out how to attract more of the same, how to differentiate. And that's really, in some ways, item 1 and item 2 to go together. Narrow your client focus and then figure out what it is that you do that they love so that you can then use that as the message for here's who we serve. And those 2 points scare a lot of people off because you are ultimately saying here's who we do not serve. And that's actually, that's actually the key to growing your business. And then the third piece is that I see is we're so anxious to get a client that we're not charging not only what we're worth, but we're not charging enough to even keep the doors open sometimes. I mean, I work with so many small business owners that are basically, creating a job for themselves. They're not building a business. They're not growing profit. They're not, building something that somebody might want to buy because they're essentially, afraid to ask what they should be getting. So those are my 3 points.
All right. Well, thank you so much, John. I appreciate it. I'm sorry if I'm going over time here. Already, I think that's pretty much it in terms of questions. I just want to thank both John and Payman to carve out some time out of their day to come and join us today in the webinar. It was extremely informative. I myself learned a ton. So thank you both for coming in today. I also want to thank the audience. I know lots of folks are stuck in quarantine in the house. So, taking the time to join this webinar has been great. So thank you so much for attending this webinar. And thank the Semrush team that are also helping us in the background for helping us host this webinar and promote this to our audience. And John, just one thing I want to leave the audience with, how can people get in touch with you? So let's say if they have any further questions, what would be the best way? Sure.
So the easiest is just Duct Tape Marketing. That's DUCTTAPE marketing.com. You can see what I've been doing the last couple of decades there. Feel free to send me an email. It's just John at Duct Tape Marketing. And then, it's Duct Tape Marketing on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and Duct Tape only on Twitter, because I joined Twitter in 2006 and you could only have 8 characters for your username at the time. So I stuck with Duct Tape.
All right. Well, thank you, John. And if you guys haven't heard of Duct Tape Marketing Podcast, I personally highly recommend it. Please do go take a look. There's lots of golden nuggets there. And also Duct Tape Marketing book, of course, on Amazon. I myself have read it years ago. Maybe not years. I have a very misunderstanding at the time. Might have been, I think, sometime early last year. So not quite years yet. And thank you, Payman, for joining us. What would be the best way if someone wants to learn a little more about Visme, Payman?
You can just Google Visme or go to visme.com, visme.co, IO, either one. You're going to end up on the same place, and you can learn about that there. And then I can also be found on LinkedIn. And put my first name in and the last name, you're going to get one result, I think. That's it.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time to attend this webinar. The recording will be available on Semrush's YouTube channel, so feel free to go ahead and contact us also on the Visme side. Feel free to, if you'd like to contact me, my email address is farzad@visme.co. That's FARZAD @visme.com. Always happy to help. All right, everybody. Well, that's it for today. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and see you in the next episode of this webinar series.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye now.